The film starts with a 2008 camcorder video. During a family vacation, June Allen is happily playing with her father, James. Grace, June's mother, walks in. Soon, June notices that his father is having a nosebleed, though he claims to be fine. The video cuts off before the end as Grace is viewing and editing it. A brief montage shows that James apparently died from a brain tumor, with many people offering June and Grace their sympathies. They move from Texas to Los Angeles. In the present day, June is now a teen who enjoys social media, computers, and the internet. She is seen browsing the internet when Grace calls. June has a bit of a rocky relationship with Grace. She considers her mother to be nagging and always on her case. Grace has also been in a relationship with a man named Kevin Lynn, and they are set to go on a trip together to Colombia. Kevin tries to talk to June since he will be updating her on their trip, which is disrupted by Grace's arrival. Kevin and Grace left for their trip. Grace sends June an I love you text, but she just gives it a thumbs-up reaction. Once Grace and Kevin are gone, June makes plans with her best friend, Vina, to party throughout her time alone. Kevin sends pictures of himself and Grace, but June mostly spends her free time partying, with occasional checkups from Grace's lawyer friend, Heather. Father's Day arrives. Vina plans for a party in June's house, but June seems unenthusiastic. June keeps her eyes out of the celebration the entire time. When the party's over and June is all alone, he misses and mourns for his father. She watches the video of their last vacation together. She also posted a photo of herself with her father on Instagram, cropping out her mother. On the day that Grace and Kevin are set to return home, June goes to the airport and holds up a joke sign, welcoming Grace back from prison, while recording herself, but she ends up waiting for hours, long after the other passengers on the same flight have arrived and picked up their luggage. June messages and tries to call Grace, but she won't answer. June then calls the hotel and uses a translator app to speak Spanish, learning that someone saw 2 Americans leave when Grace and Kevin were supposed to, but they left all their luggage at the hotel. When June asks if they can check the security footage, the manager tells her that the footage will be overwritten in 48 hours. June asks Heather's help, who told her that she will get in touch with the Colombian embassy. The next day, the personnel from Colombian embassy contacted June. She then told what happened and asked the embassy to access the footage from the hotel, as they only have 6 hours before it will be deleted. The embassy personnel promised to do his best, but June is not too optimistic about it. Using her computer and the internet, June looks for the fastest way to get the footage. She then looks for a cheap worker on Ganinja, a freelance service provider, in Colombia to help her access the hotel security footage. She meets a man named Javi Ramos, pleading her case to him to get him to help. With Javi's suggestion that smartphones are always tracking its location, June tries to hack Kevin's email account. With Vina's help, they manage to get Kevin's passwords and access his emails. Upon checking Kevin's location history, June finds out that it stopped tracking days before her mother went missing, which confuses her as Kevin kept sending her their pictures. Javi calls and informs June that he was unable to access the security footage, but he was told by a friend of his, who works in same hotel, that someone saw Kevin going to a hardware store. June accesses Kevin's credit card history to locate what hardware store he went to. Unfortunately, only the location is indicated on the last purchase history, not the actual store. She then instructed Javi to talk to workers of hardware stores located in Getsemani. But Javi has a brilliant idea to buy something in these stores to see if bank code matches with Kevin's purchase history. June tells Heather about her suspicion of Kevin. But Heather tells her that unauthorized access to Kevin's accounts is illegal, and anything obtained from such an act cannot be considered evidence. While going through Kevin's email, June and Vina find out that Kevin was recently in contact with a woman with the username Bunnycakes. They also found multiple blocked contacts who were all women, referring to him by different names like Darren, Kyle, or Luke. These women were demanding Kevin give their money back. June searches the internet for Kevin's involvement with those women and discovers he is a con man. Agent Park verifies this and further tells that Kevin was recently released from prison in the past year. But he notes that all of these were in the past, and Kevin is now using his real name. June tells the woman with the username Bunny Cakes, which happened recently. But Kevin tells her that any evidence they may have gathered off of him illegally would be thrown out in court. June later finds out that Bunny Cake's real name is Rachel Page. June investigates more and hears from Rachel's co-workers that she hasn't been seen in 2 weeks. June continues to look into Kevin's other accounts and finds that his most recent location before Colombia was an isolated house. June calls the number from the link and speaks to a man named Jimmy, who says that Kevin had visited him because he came to him seeking salvation and redemption for his past crimes. Javi calls June back and says he went to multiple hardware stores and found the one where Kevin had visited, but all he bought was a lock. When June goes through Kevin's dating apps, he finds out that this is how he and Grace met. They got on quite well, though Grace alludes to having a secret in her past that she privately tells Kevin about. After more research, and with Javi's help, June learns that Kevin and Grace went to Lover's Locks Bridge, a romantic tourist destination, where she learns from CCTV footage that Grace apparently accepted Kevin's marriage proposal. Agent Park contacts June and shows her footage of what appears to be Grace and Kevin just after their trip to the bridge, where some men in masks get out of a van and pull Grace and Kevin into their van. Park promises to investigate. June now has a double take about Kevin's identity, but upon browsing Kevin's sent photos, she noticed that all the images sent didn't show her mother's face. Moments later, she finds out that the woman with Kevin in the photos is not her mother, but Rachel Page, just obscured enough to make June think it was Grace. The news of Grace's disappearance becomes national news. The town's citizens gather and search for Grace, as she is believed to have never left Los Angeles. This coincides with June's discovery that the woman in the pictures that Kevin sent were not of Grace. This leads to Rachel getting arrested, but released on bail to be a cooperating witness. Still, it now confirms that Grace's kidnapping was staged. Rachel also stated in an interview that she was only hired by Kevin for a reality show as she is an aspiring actress. Agent Park, in a video call with June, asks if he knows something about her mother having a different identity. June answers that she always knows her mother as Grace Allen. Later, news headlines expose that Grace Allen is just one of the aliases used by June's mother. Her real name and real identity are blocked by a court-ordered seal. June asks Heather about this new development, but Heather says she knows nothing about it. Agent Park tells the press Grace is not a suspect, but nothing is being ruled out. People's sentiments quickly shift. On the internet, they are now discussing that Grace is the mastermind behind her staged kidnapping. Even Vina, June's best friend, pointed out that people have a point in those matters. June is frustrated with this. Later, while alone, she browses her mother's Facebook account, which shows nothing about her personal information. June finds in Kevin's emails a link to an encrypted messaging app, allowing June to speak to someone in Kevin's contacts under his guise. When June asks for the number, the one she receives belongs to Heather, leading June to suspect that Heather was involved in her mother's disappearance. June talks to Javi about her plan to confront Heather. Javi persuades her from doing it, as it will be dangerous. When Javi talks about being a parent does not mean always being right, June snaps at him and says it's his fault that his son refuses to speak to him now. June uses an Apple Watch that a classmate left at her house to film herself as she goes to Heather's office to get answers. June knocks on her office door and finds it has already been opened. She discovers a computer's whole drive is being erased and threatening photos of Heather and herself on Heather's desk. Further searching finds signs of a struggle, including Heather's broken necklace. June enters a closet and makes the horrifying discovery of Heather's strangled body in the corner. Agent Park tells June that Heather's death was only minutes before her arrival, and she was lucky to be alive. June feels guilty about Heather's death. She knows Heather was only trying to protect her. June also learns from Agent Park that Kevin was supposedly seen by the border. When June left her computer, someone messages Kevin denying his plea for help in getting out of Colombia. Vina then sends June a link to a real-time crime tracker app showing that police have found Kevin in Colombia. They surround him on the hotel roof, but there is quick gunfire, and Kevin is killed, leaving Grace's case running cold. June is now filled with despair, planning to leave for Vina's house. When she's about to shut down her computer, she sees her conversation with her mother. She takes her time reading their previous conversation, especially the "love you" text sent by her mother. June then begins to clear her voicemail since Grace had always asked that of her. While in tears, she listens to some of the messages and hears how Grace called her Junebug, which inspires June to use that nickname in Grace's password to access her emails. She looks into a blocked account and finds an anonymous threatening message to her, saying they have found Grace. She also finds a link to security cameras that are all hidden in a familiar-looking house, which happens to be her very same childhood home. June then gets a phone call from Jimmy, the guy from Kevin's church. Jimmy sounds frantic and ends up appearing in front of the Ring doorbell camera to reveal that he is actually James, June's father, very much alive. A shocked June lets James in to explain himself. He tells her that Grace's real name is Sarah and that she has lied to June about his death, making up lies about him to get him imprisoned. June learns that James was also detained in the same prison as Kevin. She concluded they met there and they planned everything. In the middle of this tense scene, Vina calls June. June dashes to his computer to answer Vina's call and ask for help, but James grabs her, which causes her to click the decline call button. James then forcefully pulls her into the trunk of his car. A flashback shows the rest of the home video from the beginning, showing Grace and James having an altercation. James's bloody nose wasn't from a tumor, but from his drug use. The truth is, he was an abusive drug abuser, and Grace turned him into the police to keep herself and June safe. Recorded calls feature James threatening Grace and demanding to see June. Grace had changed her name and moved away to prevent James from finding her. Heather was also the one who helped Grace form a new identity to get her away from James, and they became very close friends. James brings June to the old family house, tying her up in her old upstairs bedroom. Grace is being kept in a shed, trying to find her own way to escape. James enters with a gun and throws to her June's sweater, cluing her into her presence. Grace fights James and briefly takes him out long enough for her to run and lock him in the shed. Grace runs up to June's room and reunites with her, freeing her and seeing how apologetic June is toward her. Unfortunately, James gets loose and is able to lock June and Grace in the room where June was kept. June contacts Javi through WhatsApp on the Apple Watch connected to James's phone, first apologizing to him for how she spoke to him and then asking for his help. He goes on June's Instagram to see a Father's Day pic she posted, which shows the family's old address to give to the police, but June loses her connection with Javi. James enters the room, asking for June's watch. He threatens June and Grace, even shooting June in the side. June tries to run, but James catches her. When he attempts to tie June up again, Grace stabs James in the neck with a shard of glass. Grace loses consciousness while James goes out wobbling due to his neck wound, locking Grace and June up. James tries to get help, but he slowly dies from his wound. June apologizes to a wounded Grace for how she treated her and remembers how Grace always used Siri for everything. Remembering how her phone is in her room and her laptop screen is still linked to the security cameras, June uses Siri to access her phone and call 911. June and Grace are rescued and given medical attention. Their case is fictionalized in the Netflix crime drama Unfiction, which June thinks is lame. June has a FaceTime call with Grace. Her treatment of her mother now is the opposite before their family tragedy. Grace tells June that her friend Javi friended Grace on Facebook. It also turns out that he has successfully reunited with his son. Grace was about to say something, but June unintentionally ended the call, prompting her to text. She is finally able to tell her mother that she loves her.